to allow us to have a free and fair election. Because however I look at it, you are not doing anybody any favor. You are only doing democracy favor, trying to advance democracy in Nigeria if you allow electronic transfer of election results. Because we have seen in this country that if you minimize human factor in the process of electioneering process, in the process of voting, in the process of transmission of results, if you minimize human factor, human intervention, human participation, you to a great extent minimize manipulation. Because if you look at it, the manipulation that happens after voting. So if there is not a system where you can transmit the result directly from the polling unit before it gets to even the ward collation center, because a lot of manipulation happen between the polling unit and the ward collation center. Because if you look at it, in some cases, some of the polling units are not even in the same community with the ward collation center. So a candidate who may have lost in a particular polling unit, who is not comfortable because they know that by the time they start sharing the dividends of democracy, they start looking at whether you're able to deliver your polling unit. So a politician who want to get position will always want to go and manipulate the figure even before it gets to the ward collation center. So if you now transmit the result before it gets to the ward collation center, you would have removed that hurdle. Then by the time it gets to the ward collation center, the local government political leader or the various political parties will start playing their own level of politics, or how to manipulate the result that comes out of their local government. You don't understand that if you already transmitted the result from the units, the political gladiator who leads a political party at the level of local government will not have the privilege of tampering with the result at the level of local government. The same is applicable of the level of senatorial district, even at the state level. So that will to a great extent checkmate rigging, even ballot snatching, ballot stuffing, and all that. It will to a great extent minimize it. So I think the conference committee that we're expecting that will be constituted by both chambers of the National Assembly, the House of Rep and House of Senate, I think they should do Nigerians justice by giving us a good resolution that will accommodate electronic transfer of results. So I am not relying on Mr. President to ask him not to give assent. I have said that in the past, but judging by Mr. President's antecedent, judging by the body language of the presidency, there is every likelihood that Mr. President will definitely assent to this bill the way it is. So that is why I am calling on the respective conference committee that will eventually be constituted by the two chambers of the National Assembly to come up with a resolution that will give us electronic transfer of election result direct from the polling units. Okay. Instead of creating that lacuna that politicians will explore to rig election.
Because looking at this in general, in all fairness, I think it is no more news that the system and the kind of elite we have do not want the structure of what is obtainable in sane climes to be replicated here. So one is not really surprised that like somebody like me, I wasn't expecting the NCC to come and support the notion of INEC. That I think INEC, maybe because they've been the one at the receiving end of the shenanigans and the attitude of the political class, seems to shed light on want to lose the weight.
If you look at the attitude of INEC,
so go on.
If you look at the attitude of the INEC, not just in this circumstance, almost in so many circumstances, they want to actually exert their authority and express that independence.
Okay.
It's just unfortunate that, from what we are seeing, that the government may be trying to amputate INEC.
Okay. Now, aside that, why would a group of people who said, what kind of country are we running? Who openly at one point said the network coverage would even improve, will cover every part of the country, all of a sudden will pretend as if the report that supports the notion that the network coverage can even remit result electronically.
I say if you look at their projection.
So why is NCC this contradictory?
It is.
But no, what is not surprising if you look at the leadership structure of NCC itself, we said it here in some of the platforms, it tends to be a leadership structure that is within padded towards a particular set of religion.
No, I think I do not want to stigmatize.
No, I'm not. No one is stigmatizing. We're looking at the true picture. The leader of NCC is Pantami. The leadership of the National Assembly is Ahmed Lawan. The leadership of the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, is Femi Gbadagbia. The reality on ground is that all these people are Muslims, and they are majorly from a political parties and loyalists to a political party, directly or indirectly. It might not be totally true. No one is saying, but no, we're in as much as we're not looking at it from that angle. One is looking at the fact on ground that it has characterized the decision of the governmental actors that being in a party and it is glaring if you go electronically, you will lose. So they are using everything within their disposition to manipulate the system. And looking at their belief system, they have common grounds that can make them align on any subject of conversation. So one is really not surprised that NCC came out to align, whose leadership is under Pantami, with a house that is led by Femi Gbadagbia, and on this subject of conversation, Idris Wase is from Jos, North Central, with the leadership of Ahmed Lawan from North East. All on same, it is not a mere coincidence.
In as much as I agree with you that they are using everything at their disposal
to
achieve it.
So
I do not subscribe to stigmatization.
No, it's not a matter of no one is stigmatizing them. What we are saying
that they have a pattern of behavior.
No, we are looking at no one is profiling them based on pattern of behavior. We are looking at the situation of what is on ground. It is a fact that they are from this part of the country, yes or no. Nobody is stigmatizing. There's a difference between saying a realistic statement.
If I look at them, I look at what they do on their individual basis.
Obviously, their individual basis, they have a common ground.
Not because they hail from a particular.
Wait, I'm talking about something. A common ground on individual basis create a unified system that collectively joins the common ground of what they share, that comes to an agglomeration to make a particular subject of conversation. But so you can't differentiate. Politically, you can't differentiate an individual who individually come together for a particular aim, because you need to be an individual to have a common ground of what is joining you before you can agree on a particular aim.
As all you are saying, the statement of fact, you equally agree with me that the leadership of INEC is equally from the northern part of the country.
Yes.
They are from the same particular religion
yes.
you alluded to.
Yes. And no. Sorry. Can I come in there? Can I answer the question of INEC? Why INEC?
I'll give it time to answer. If you look at the position of the position of all the stakeholders you just mentioned.
Yes, which is true.
So to that extent, so on that ground, if INEC,
but was INEC supposed to align if they are really independent? If they are independent, is an independent body supposed to align? Is it standard?
You are talking of a normal situation.
Okay.
But what we have seen a situation where people are not playing by the rule.
Okay.
So and it's unfortunate.
So in as much as we accept that INEC did not align, which we applaud them for, that is not going to take away the fact that some that have aligned have the common ground for aligning. And before now, people speculated them so well, and they acted in line based on the facts of what people have speculated surrounding them.
In as much as what you are saying, like
is factual.
There are statements of fact. But what I want to disagree is that I do not want to believe, perhaps because they are from the same.
No, the statement does not mean that everybody from that zone must align on same subject. A majority opinion must fall in line. When you check if you count the policies 100, a majority have always been on that point of view.
I think the important thing is we should find a way of isolating people who refuse to do the needful, who choose to be on the bad side of the law for purpose of prosecution. Because if you don't do that, there's no way you can correct.
Do we believe that this system can prosecute any of such? When we both witnessed what happened to the Air Force jet fighter, and no intelligence has come out to give a statement. But the same country, and intelligence can even fly as far. Well, they've sent delegates to Benin Republic. So what we've seen, you see, I don't think Nigeria exists as a country in isolation. It is what you do that will give you the result of what you're going to reap in the near future. Is this system of what we're practicing going to bring anything possible? I think
if somebody does something that is commendable, we should commend them.
Obviously, we are commending.
The reason I'm saying it is, let's first of all commend INEC in the face of all odds.
Yes.
For standing resolute and maintaining their position that they do have the capacity to transmit the election result electronically across board, nationwide. I think that is commendable. We can disagree with those that decides to
okay, go on, I'm listening.
We can decide to disagree with those that decide to be on the wrong side of the law.
Okay.
Yes, then we commend INEC for standing.
Well, in as much as we're going
upright.
To commend INEC for this singular act, we've also seen the direct or indirect action whereby if one can go deeper to check some of the elections that have held in the past, especially the staggered elections. I don't know if INEC really demands condemnation, applaud, because it is obvious that in the process of the inconclusive INEC, we've witnessed a new pattern whereby the party that is losing automatically wins the election. So, in the face of this, you might not be able to give, if you subject it to a national debate.
If you look at
sorry, I'm coming.
all the cases
I'm coming. You might not be able to give it to INEC. So, although they might have done one or two, trying to look as if they are fair. But in case of the election that has happened categorically between the last 4 years, in staggered election from Osun State to Kano State to Sokoto State so if you check the staggered election, almost in most of those scenarios, immediately INEC declares inconclusive. What will happen next? Virtually most people will tell you it was a calculated attempt to directly and indirectly. It might not be a statement of truth, but where the problem is, like somebody like me, I have problem is, why is it that people would have seen a systemic failure to have predict the outcome, which is always negative, or a process whereby there is a manipulation and it has come to stay? So like people on the street can tell that they will go for Sunday, but you can never see the head of bandits, and it has come to stay.
The antecedents have shown that is how they will do it.
Okay.
Because if you study a system, you would have understand some sequence, and you can use to extrapolate the future that this is the likely outcome of this particular event.
Okay.
I think that is what people are doing. But however I look at it, there is a grand norm, there is a standard that is supposed to guide activities of government.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that in most of the activities of the government, they are not often guided by the by the constitution.
Okay.
Rather, they find a way of manipulating the system just to have their way, whether their action is supported by the constitution or not.
Okay, let's move over to the second headline, which says agents lured son. Oh, sorry. It says extradition treaty between Nigeria and the Benin Republic. 2 others exclude political refugee. That was credited to a senior advocate of Nigeria. What do you have to say about that? Okay,
if you look at the extradition treaty between Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, and Benin Republic of 1984, it tells you that a political fugitive might not be released to his country.
Okay.
And equally, if you look at, if there is evidence that the person will not get justice,
go on, I'm listening.
If there is equally evidence that the person will not get justice, it is still part of the treaty that the person should not be extradited.
Okay.
So if you look at the news about his arrest and the rumor about his extradition, it tells the fact that he have not been extradited to Nigeria tells you that there's diplomatic issues going on currently. Otherwise, they would have smuggled him into Nigeria. And I think that's why the DSS have kept mum over the issue. Because if they had succeeded in bringing him into Nigeria, the DSS would have addressed press conference. So the way it stands, I think the government of Nigeria have a responsibility to prove to the government of Benin Republic.
Okay. Okay. Then what does that mean for Nigeria? Because looking at the nation in committee of other nations, what do you think other countries around the world will take Nigeria as when it comes to such issues of violation of rule of law? And
the truth is that Nigeria have always rubbished itself at the level of committee of nations. It's not only in this circumstance. Look at what is happening even with the current detention of Nnamdi Kanu. How can British High Commission in Nigeria send a form through Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer for him to sign consent for consular assistance, and Nigerian DSS are returning the letter without Nnamdi Kanu appending his signature? How can even the same lawyer obtain a form from a firm, a legal firm in Britain, that want to offer diplomatic assistance to the man in detention? Okay,
let me just read some of the comments from our viewers at home. I think, okay, Mr. Victor Nonso, okay, well done, guys. Olofite Benga, well done, guys. Mr. Nyinka, what's the definition of a federation? That's a theoretical question. In a federation, does the individual state not have the right from a legislative perspective to set up the mechanism for re-election? Is a question. So he's saying that the legislative arm have the power to determine whatsoever they want in terms of
in as much as they had the power. But what we are saying that in this case there is an institution of government that have lied on oaths, that is alleged to have lied on oaths, considering contradictory statements, contradictory reports
from the same institution, NCC.
So that is what we are questioning. Not that National Assembly as an institution do not have the right to enact law or to make decisions.
And in that right, it should be on the basis of popular demand.
No, they can even play politics and arrive at unpopular decision. But what we are saying is, in this circumstance, an institution of government is already been alleged
to be contradicting its
own report about coverage of network coverage in Nigeria.
Which is earlier said we can cover.
So that itself, we need to interrogate it. Let me tell the person who is saying it.
Yeah, I think is Mr. Yinka. Then Ikechukwu is in good day, guys.
It goes on not to interrogate what the position of NCC.
Then Ikechukwu is in. Welcome back to the program. Okay, Musicast TV. Okay, Mr. Benga said, election or no election, Nigeria needs purging. So I wouldn't know the kind of purging.
No, he's talking about restructuring, by my understanding.
Okay.
So you can use any term.
Okay. Mr. Izin was at least 3 or 4. Don't let it be more than 2 or 3 plus moderator. Oh, okay. I think he's talking about the numbers of people. My question was theoretical for now. Why is there a body called INEC when we are supposedly in a federation?
I don't know what he's trying to say.
Well, Mr. Yinka, maybe you can rephrase the question so that we can really understand.
However I look at it,
what your question is talking about.
You need a body to conduct election. So I don't know the point he's trying to make, but you need a body to conduct election. And in this case, in this circumstance, we are commending INEC for
standing its ground. Yes.
Coming up to say the way it is. Because ordinarily, Nigerians, as we know them, would have been intimidated to toe the line of other stakeholders.
Yes, it's true. So,
for me, I commend INEC for their resolution and for their standing upright to maintain their stand.
Okay, please, viewers at home, you can try as much as possible. Let the comment keep coming and your questions as well as your opinion on the subject of conversation. Okay, so Mr. Matthew, we're talking about Sunday Igboho, the repatriation. The son was trying to say that if it is on political ground or a passive injustice or persecution, that such...
Honestly, if you look at those laws of 1984, that extradition treaty between Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, and Benin Republic, it tells you that if the person involved is perceived not to have justice in his country, he has reserved right not to be extradited to his country. And again, if it is perceived that the prosecution process will be delayed
for political reasons,
like the history of prosecution in Nigeria, the criminal justice system in Nigeria is known to, the cases in court is known to linger,
especially with the current administration.
So if it is perceived and if it is proven that the justice will not come, that the case will be delayed in court, the person can equally not be extradited to his own country. So I think there are good grounds upon which, a Sunday Igboho, his legal team, will argue that he should not be extradited to Nigeria. Because look at the invasion of his house. Look at the claim of DSS. We have pictorial evidences of how his house was ransacked, disorganized, and DSS have come up openly to accept responsibility of even killing 2 of his aides. And this is somebody who have written to International Criminal Court of Justice
and the
UN. They have equally acknowledged the receipt of his petition.
Yes.
So to that extent, I think he have ample evidence to argue that he should not be extradited to Nigeria. And looking at again what gave rise to his agitation, and looking at the legality of his agitation, what gave rise to his agitation is the excesses of Fulani herdsmen. Because if you look at what brought him to limelight, it is when he gave a quick notice to the Sariki of a Ganga,
yes,
and the Wakili of a person who held sway in that Ibarapa area, and there was so much accusation of kidnapping, maiming, land grabbing, and all that against him, and the federal government seemed to be unwilling to investigate and possibly prosecute him if they were able to establish any case against him. They are looking at the legality of the agitation. UN Charter I think Article 1 of UN Charter talks about self-determination, and Nigerian government is a signatory to it. And looking at all the places, let me just draw the conclusion here. Looking at all the places where he has successfully carried out rally, like a place like Oyo, Ekiti, Ondo, you see that those rallies were relatively peaceful. So I think all these are evidences that his legal team will take to Benin Republic to argue against himself being extradited to Nigeria.
Okay, now in looking at that, was Nigeria not conversant with the rules of the UN Charter when they were signing this? Or they decide to sign, they now play double standard as usual, because the country, just like some people will tell you, was formed as an administrative convenience of the British.
But what I wanted to tell you is this: you see, the same way a manner Nigerian government choose and pick which court order to obey in Nigeria, the same way they think it will be convenient for them to do at the global level. So I don't think they can have their way.
But the global level is not a banana republic whereby you just do what you...
Don't forget that Sunday Igboho has German passport.
Yes. And
so
the wife
if Germany steps in, thank you very much. The wife she's equally a German citizen. So if Germany now steps in, you see that it is already a diplomatic issue. So I don't think, if you look at influence of Nigeria in this our sub-region and look at influence of Germany globally, I don't think Nigeria have what it takes to muzzle strength.
We can't muzzle South Africa, Mr.
So I think Germany will have more influence
Nigeria.
Benin Republic than what than influence Nigeria can exert. So like I told you, if Nigeria had their way, you would have seen DSS addressing
Omari Diko's format.
Yes, you would have seen DSS
addressing the press
in Abuja.
How
so there's already a diplomatic issue going on even right there in the Republic.
DSS now have off their mic. Let me take some of the comment. Okay. Mr. Ike Chukwueze. Okay, Mr. Inka is saying, is it the state legislature that should it is the state legislature that should determine and make how election should run in its own state. I think he's trying to talk about how.
I don't think that is obtainable in Nigeria.
He's talking about federal structure, how it is obtainable.
Looking at Nigerian constitution.
No, I understand, but I'm just reading from his comment. Yes. Okay. So Mr. Kuti says, "Well done, guys." Mr. Moses Shonubi says, "Good job." Mr. Inka says, "States pass the result of the election to a central body after it has been counted. So it's the individual state legislature that has the power to determine how it wants to run its own election." I think that is
not applicable in Nigeria.
I think that he's talking about the state election.
No, it's only the local government election that the state has
power. Yes, that's what I think.
Constitute electoral body.
Then Mr. Kuti 5, I think Mr. Kuti 5 has always been so consistent. Thank you very much. And well done, Flip TV. Mr. Yinka again. The point we are not running a federal system, which is why the system is dysfunctional.
We have
accepted that
the constitution needs to be amended, but looking at the current status quo, it is not INEC or conduct of election is not under the purview of the state
legislature. Yes. Then plain man speaking, can you please explain the issue with the DSS not allowing Mazin Nnamdi Kanu to sign those forms, and what is the consequence?
Okay, let me quickly address that. The consequence is this, because if you look at the intention of the legal team of Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, their intention is to go to a British court, to ask that court to assume jurisdiction
on him,
territorial jurisdiction or global jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction or universal jurisdiction, as the case may be, on that case.
So it means,
if actually they have allowed him to sign that consent for that diplomatic assistance,
it means
for that legal for that court, sorry, for that legal firm in Britain to take over the case. So once they go to a British court and the court assumes jurisdiction over the case, they will now go back to the court to ask the court to issue a right of mandamus against Nigerian government, asking Nigerian government to produce Nnamdi Kanu in their own court to prove whether the process of his extradition was right or wrong. So I think that is what Nigerian GSS is trying to avoid. Don't forget that the letter was subjected to legal analysis before they came up with a resolution that they will not allow the guy to sign it, and subsequently it was handed over to his lawyer without Nnamdi Kanu appending his signature.
Okay.
Don't forget that in sometime 22 years ago or so, in Nigeria versus PNID, an arbitration panel in Britain assumed jurisdiction over an issue involving Nigerian government and a corporate entity, PNID. And in that arbitration judgment, the arbitration panel awarded $9.6 billion against Nigerian government. Though Nigerian government have gone ahead further to set aside that judgment. So I think the fear of Nigerian government is they don't want a situation where a British court will assume jurisdiction over the case. And don't forget that even as at that level, the PNID already had a leverage by the courts or by the arbitration panel to go and seize Nigerian assets in over 100 countries that are members of that arbitration panel. So I think these are the areas Nigerian government, these are the areas that are avoided.
They're scared about not to go.
That is why they don't want.
But do you see internationally? Do you see this turning to another diplomatic?
Nigeria as a country that do not have.
But if the US the UK try to employ diplomatic means of getting Nnamdi Kanu to the UK, and Nigeria is not yielding, which I know the government probably will not yield. What implications are you looking at? Would there be sanctions?
You may see diplomatic row.
Okay.
If you see diplomatic row, it may come in form of sanction.
Okay, let's move ahead.
Okay.
Let's move ahead because of time. Agent Leo Igboho'S wife into Interpol net at Cotonou Airport. I think that is related. It's straightforward.
It's dramatic.
Yes, it was dramatic. But now, the worrisome part, I read the news. I'm trying to wonder how Sunday Igboho himself vanished within the point, in the midst of the conversation with police officers.
It's equally a mystery.
Because, some people have argued that in as much as, the airports would probably have one of the most secured security apparatus everywhere. I'm trying to imagine, and some have also argued that maybe it's another means who might not be able to.
It still puzzles me anyway, because from what I read, it was
intercepted.
There was an issue. Actually, he was intercepted.
An argument came up,
and in the midst of the argument,
he vanished
until they had to use his travel agent
to locate the wife
and call him that the
he
issue
should call his resolve. He should come.
Before he now
so he came out willingly.
So to that extent, I do not have the capacity to determine what transpired, but it's like a puzzle.
No, even the confidant that came up with the news to Punch, while talking before in one of the platforms, said that as at the time, if not for the fact that the travel agent called him, he brought himself out. Had he been, he never brought himself out, it would have been a mystery of his whereabouts right within the airport.
So it's a function of, personally, I do not have the magic wand to justify what actually transpired
within the airport.
So, what we are saying is that the government should do the
needful so that we can settle up this.
Yes.
It's becoming more comedic, and would I call it uncommon miracle? Okay, let's move ahead from that very news, and let's also look at Yoruba Nation Rally. Nigeria slam police for lying, demand identity of sales girls killer. And the irony of this very report is that Flip TV covered that very protest, and categorically, I was there, and most of our correspondents, even the cameraman, was also on ground. Mr. Taiwo was there. I think Sadiq was also there. Chris. So the gunshot and the location where this happened, the camera to a reasonable extent covered the people being chased by police to that very place. So immediately she was shot and she was on the ground. Flip TV covered it. So it wasn't a function of maybe hoodlums or no. The army that were standing on ground never pursued anybody with their guns. They never shot. So for you to come out to the public and say it is not, I mean, who else had the monopoly of using an AK-47?
Now, there are some pertinent questions that the police must complain to answer. We don't forget that before now, police have denied culpability, claiming that the corpse was done there, according to them, with evidence of dried blood. But thank God, the autopsy have revealed that it was a gunshot. And another issue is the people that conducted the autopsy do not see the bullet. Don't forget that the police took custody
of the body
of the remains of the girl. Who knows what may have transpired before police handed the corpse over to the hospital where the autopsy was carried out. So the police need to produce the bullets.
You think they will produce the bullets?
No, those are the things we are demanding. Then two.
The demand has nothing to do with our system. None has ever happened.
Second, I have a reason of saying this.
Now understand.
Secondly, they need to identify the policeman who fired the shots.
Really, in this country?
And coming, there is a reason I'm saying it. They haven't done that. They need to organize an on-the-road trial for the policeman in question.
In this same country?
And coming now. Haven't done that. If he is found wanting, he need to be dismissed, handed over to the government for prosecution. The reason I'm saying it is simple. Until you start doing this, you cannot stop police excesses. You cannot stop extrajudicial killing. You cannot stop human rights violation as being perpetrated by Nigerian security agencies. Because if they know that they can do it and
go away with it, they will keep doing it. Mr. Matthew, I think maybe when we get to Isena climbs or when Nigeria get to that stage, are you
saying Nigeria should not be sanitized?
We'll demand for we should be sanitized, but this is your demand. Maybe we'll see it in the US, like in the case of George Floyd.
We are demanding.
George Floyd.
Have you not seen how the leadership of National Assembly is running from pillar to pole because of criticism? So in the same way, we should criticize areas where some persons have refused to do the needful.
Yes, the truth still remains that immediately they go on, the lady, the bullet hit the lady, and our camera guys moved over to the scene. I was there. The blood was still fresh, not still as at that point in time.
As against the claim of the police.
Yeah, as at that point in time. There was another TV station that also covered the news at that point in time. And there was an army officer, because army packed about 2 e-logs, and they don't want, we do not cover them. They were like, no, this is a police work. It was those police that were chasing the protesters down to a fenced building. There's a fence, and the lady was standing there. The man fired. So the protesters, some very experienced, had to lie down. If not so, gun would have probably met even our cameraman how to run it out scatter. They told all the cameras to shut down all the TV stations so that the activities, their standard operation will not be viewed. So as at that point in time, it wasn't a factor of deliberating who shot the gun. The armies there testified behind the scene.
But the police have a responsibility to produce the policeman that fired.
Mr. Matthew, when we get to that stage, they will produce it. Let's read some of the comment.
Beyond the police, I think I know that there is no amount of money that will take care of the dead. But I think compensation is required in this circumstance.
Okay. Let's take
and
some
that
of...
has to be on the part of Lagos State government.
Okay. To Nigeria says, if Nigeria rules out the death penalty in its democratic system, it will be out of international law to deny its extradition.
What is this trying to say?
I don't know. Maybe to Nigeria is...
come again with that.
It says, if Nigeria rules out the death penalty in its democratic system, it will be out of international law to deny its extradition.
What are death penalty to do with extradition?
I'm trying to see if to Nigeria is an international
maybe he needed to
relations
because death penalty.
I've never read anywhere.
If you are discussing death penalty,
we can
discuss it vis-a-vis what is applicable in other countries. If you are discussing
extradition, it has nothing to do with death penalty.
So I don't know.
So
how we understand?
Well, I understand to Nigeria's position, which is okay, is entitled to it. Mr. Nonso say, went down, brother. Mr. Yinka, Nigeria is not a rational country. Germany should use the threat of force to ask for its citizen back. That's the only language Africans understand. I believe in what Mr. Yinka just said. Africa already understand the use of force. A lot of Nigerians are prisoners of conscience across the world. A lot of Nigerians across the world are holding UN traveling document, declaring as a stateless person due to Buhari intolerance to constructive criticism. That's the statement of Uyi. Now, looking at, I don't know if these headlines have ever brought smiles to some of our faces in the last couple of days, and it is worrisome that we keep on reading this kind of headlines. But away from that, Mr. Matthew, let's look at the next headline we have, because we have limited time and we'll be rounding off anytime soon. UK to FG, explain the circumstances of Nnamdi Kanu's arrest. Why? I think most of these international communities are trying to hold down the government to be more responsible in their approach.
The statement coming from UK's government is not unexpected. Because for me, it's like an affront. What happened in the case of Nnamdi Kanu is like an affront to British sovereignty. Because here you have somebody who came into Kenya as we were made to understand.
So let me read this quickly by Jarek. I think, Yinka, do you know Germany will never send their army overseas because of World War Treaty? That can never happen. God bless Nigeria. We don't want troublemaker like Kanu and Sunday. Jarek happened to be maybe a machinery of government. What do you think?
Because he's entitled to his opinion.
Yes, but the point is,
his opinion is not popular.
Yeah,
now
the question is, in what context will you rationalize Kanu and Sunday to be troublemaker?
These are people who are talking about self-determination.
So how are they troublemakers?
Nigerian government have not withdrew their signatory to the charter, UN charter that guarantees self-determination. So to that extent,
they are not troublemakers.
I'll be right tomorrow if I rise, I say my ethnic group want to secede from Nigeria, as long as I'm doing it within the ambits of the law. That is why, even as it stands, whether Nnamdi Kanu, whether Sunday Igboho, they are innocent until proven otherwise by a court of competent jurisdiction.
So obviously they are not troublemakers.
I don't know why the guy choose to call them troublemakers. For me, what they did or what they are doing is within the ambit of the law.
Okay, go on. We're talking about the case of Nnamdi Kanu and the UK asking the federal government. For
me, what happened was like an affront against British sovereignty. Because as at the time, he was apprehended in Kenya.
I think they said he went for a conference.
Rendition rather than extradition. Because if actually was accosted and apprehended in Kenya, and he came in Kenya not illegally, through legal means, with
from
British
the UK,
passports.
Yes, British passport.
The right thing to do was for the Kenya government to notify British High Commission in Kenya. And if they needed to even extradite him to Nigeria, because he equally is a Nigerian citizen, they needed to argue the extradition right there in Kenya, where he will be afforded free, fair hearing. So his legal team will be there, the government of Nigeria will be there, and perhaps Britain will be there. Then they will argue, and you needed to seek his consent. If you say he's not coming to Nigeria, you look at the justification behind it. If it is genuine, he can be
that would be a legal debate
from coming to Nigeria. Just like we are discussing about Sunday
Igboho.
If he can prove that bringing him to Nigeria will amount to persecution, that he will not get justice,
which is becoming, some people have said.
And don't forget that before he left Nigeria, there was a military genocidal invasion of his Afaruku home. So I think Nigerian government, they are aware of all the position of the law. That perhaps explains the reason the whole process was shielded in secrecy.
Okay, let's move very quickly. Court declines sack of Governor Uzodima's deputy. We are having another dramatic from Zamfara to Imo State.
I think what the court did is not wrong.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Must our system be characterized with illegality, double standard, and I'm coming. Okay. The system ordinarily now, if you check what is happening in National Assembly, the voting pattern, when you check the two dominant political parties, Sunday Igboho'S, is there any system that is working? Why is it characterized with illegality, double standard, hypocrisy, trouble, bad headlines? Is this country going to work? Ever going to work?
Looking at the...
No, you're going to come to the headlines of Uzodima. Looking at what is happening by the passing by of each day, is there anything called hope in this country? Because I believe that for you to have a better future, it depends on your actions now that will translate to a better future maybe in the next 10 years. From all what the headlines have been saying consistently and constantly in the last couple of years, is this country going to get to anywhere reasonable at all? From now, okay,
we start seeing positive results.
So what we are doing,
that is why it behoves on you. And
no, that's why we are doing this.
And so that is why I'm even equally pushing it to you to know that you have a responsibility to play.
We have a responsibility to play, Mr. Martin.
You have a role to play.
Okay.
In trying to shape the system, in trying to tailor the government to do the right thing. So, in as much as the government is stubborn, the government is unwilling to play by the rule, we continue criticizing constructively.
Okay, so we're talking about Uzodima's deputy, which the High Court.
Looking at that Uzodima's case, Uzodima of Imo State, I will look at it from two angles. One, if you look at the statement credited to the judge while he was delivering the judgment, I think it is Taiwo. He said that he have looked at all the merits of the case, that he cannot clothe the plaintiff the toga of locus standi. In a nutshell, that the man who brought the case lacked locus standi.
Need to file this
to that case.
Yes,
that is on one hand. Then, if you look at another reason he adduced to discharge the case and even awarded, I think, about 250,000 naira
yes,
against the man in question for wasting the time of the court and for bringing such litigation. He said that since Supreme Court already adjudicated over that case, he cannot sit on appeal on the judgment of Supreme Court. That itself is the position of the law.
Yes.
So I'm not looking at whether Supreme Court was justified to have given him the mandate. That's a different ballgame. And the way it stands, since the Supreme Court is the court of higher jurisdiction, the higher jurisdiction in the land, once it delivers a judgment, whether wrongly or rightly, no matter the perspective of which you are seeing it, it stands. So to that extent, I think the judge was right to have given that judgment, because there's no way he would have sat
on a case that have been adjudged
by Supreme Court.
Yes.
So for me,
that is the most.
It's a different thing to say you do not like the face of Hope Uzodima. It's a different thing to say you do not like the judgment that brought him into power by Supreme Court. But you cannot fault the man who say he cannot sit appeal on a judgment already delivered by Supreme Court, which is a court of higher jurisdiction in the land.
Okay, moving away from that, let's look at PDP demands release of judgment, accuses judges of frustrating appeal. I think this is in relation to the Anambra State election.
I think if a judgment has been delivered, at times judges or the court can decide to give reason later. And at times, if you needed to appeal the judgment, you need the proceeding from the court. So I think what they need to do, they need to approach the appropriate authority, the court registry, for purpose of getting the relevant documents. If they need to make appeal, if they need it for further litigation, whatever reason they need it, I think they need to approach the registrar of the court for purpose of getting it. And if the court is not giving it to them, I think they have another option of going to court of higher jurisdiction to file an application that they have been denied a document that legally they reserve right.
But is court supposed to hide the judgment interpret? Because sometimes when those judgments is delivered,
politically, some people can want to play gimmick.
So sometimes when such judgments is delivered, you might not really understand the full judgment instantly until you read the details. So most times it's always been released to the parties to read. So if you're not convenient with some of the aspect the judge might have used in concluding that very judgment, you can now appeal.
Yes.
So is a judgment something that should generate another controversy?
It shouldn't. That's why I'm saying that.
What kind of country? What are we practicing? What kind of
approach the court through the registrar of the court for purpose of getting the relevant documents?
Okay, let me read the comment. Yinka is replying to, I think, Jarek. It has a huge influence in NATO. That avenue can be used. Yinka, besides that, no longer the case. Currently, Germany is building an EU army. Besides, Germany sends soldiers to Afghanistan. I think your understanding is dated.
outdated.
Yes, it's true. There are cases whereby some of these people don't follow some of those laws, and if they have an interest in Benin Republic, they can bridge those international laws and have their way. So Jarek, I don't think is conversant with international law. The United States Operation Delta Storm stormed the.
Don't forget that even the other time, Iran accused U.S. government of breaching their airspace.
So many.
They cited.
So yes, I think Jarek is not conversant with what is happening in the international communities and how some of these European nations, even some of these big boys in the international scene, break its own law within the and who dares challenge them.
Did America not kill Soleimani in Iraq?
Okay, even in the arrest and the capturing of Osama bin Laden, as at that point in time, it was more or less an act whereby it was done without even the consent of the Afghanistan government. So most times these guys launching with their sophistication of weapons with a jet that the radar of the government, the African country that does not have a good technological, will not even capture the radar till they land. They can land in Benin Republic and take on the Igboho and the wife, and nobody would know. Just like the way they landed in Nigeria.
They can even exert influence.
Yes.
And prevail on them against their will.
Was it not in this same country and the US landed in the country and saved
that 27 years old?
Yes. So and Nigeria was not even informed. Nobody cares, and they just landed.
The operation was
successfully before Nigerian government was aware. So Jarek, I think Jarek is not conversant with what is happening in the international scene, and these big boys really don't care about how you go about achieving in the third world countries. Okay, let's move away from that and quickly, while we're summarizing, I think this will be our last, probably our last conversation. 2023 presidency, not 4 years claim after Buhari can stand. That is a statement credited to Afenifere. So the North are clamoring that 4 years, they still need additional 4 years. So what do you think? Where are we going to first?
What I want to say is, it's unfortunate that some persons always want to make somebody sound as if he's tribal, and it's unfortunate. When we look at the political history of Nigeria, the history of rulership, both the military and democratic, I don't think a northern elite will be justified to be telling the South that they are more justified to have another shot at presidency after that time.
When if you look at his analysis, the current president will be using 8 years come 2023.
No, what is his analysis? It is Shetima Yerima, the youth leader of Arewa Constitutional Forum.
The same Yerima with the 13 years old.
In his analysis, he said that if you combine Yaradua and Buhari's period of leadership, that is 10 years. Then if you combine
Jonathan
and Jonathan, yes, that is 14 years. He's trying to use that to justify that not needed to cover up that additional, is it 4 years or so?
Yes.
But the point is this. The point is this. If you look at Nigeria's independence and where we are, the North is not justified to be talking about having another shot at the presidency come 2023. Let us even look at quota system, federal character. It is because of the advancement of the South above the North that the northern part of the country, under the leadership of the military system, introduced quota system in Nigeria. If not for proliferation of private universities, state universities, you find out that in Nigeria, somebody from Kano, somebody from Jigawa, somebody from Borno, who perhaps score lower than somebody from Lagos, who have admission into a federal university to study medicine, to study law. And somebody who score higher in the South will not have that advantage, will not have the privilege of getting the admission. And all these are policies created by the northern leaders to catch up with the South.
But have they ever have the Northerners catch up with the
They have
South?
not been able to do that.
So what?
But what I'm trying to say in essence
What is delaying them?
no, there is the disparity. The gap is wide. I could remember as a copper, a teacher in the school I served in Jigawa State. He blamed the backwardness of the North on the North not embracing Western education as early as the South. It may be correct, but whatever happens, this is the reality on ground. And it is unfortunate that each time you even see the government appoint Northerners at the expense of the South, they will claim that it is on merit. As if
what
you
a
have
paradox.
more, as if you have more
Intelligent, educated people
persons in the
in
North
North than the
South.
South.
So I think a Yerima needs to be educated and enlightened. That is like an affront to the South for him to be saying this.
Okay.
That's why I say when people like that talk, it makes people like us sound as if we are tribal. Well, ordinarily, as a Nigerian, I will not bother whoever is leading where he hail from. As long as that person is competent, that person has what it takes, the managerial acumen, the political acumen, all it takes to deliver on the mandate, I will go for the person. But by the time you start seeing people like Yerima, who should know?
But is it not laughable or comedic that the North tend to have an elite that speaks to show that it makes it look as if from some people in the South that the most intelligent Northerners don't come out to talk, and those are the leadership frontiers are those who obviously don't have the interests of the core Northerners, the Talakawas, the poor Northerners at heart. And they talk, and it's evident enough to show that they don't really have the intellect to compete with the Southern counterpart. Because I wasn't expecting a Yerima to even come out and say this. If he has studied the...
It's already a defeated argument.
Yes, because ordinarily, if you study those who have occupied the number one position from Nigeria, but Nigeria has produced about 16 presidents. The North single-handedly has produced about 11 or 12. So is it a sane argument to say that that region is still the lowest when it comes to education?
You can imagine.
It is the poorest, the highest poverty, the highest numbers of IDP camp, the highest numbers of child mortality, the out of school children, and you have people still coming out to grandstand. I think Yerima should be in a psychiatric, probably should get somewhere to be checked. And yet, do you know that these guys have ruled for over 60 years, over 60% of the numbers of years, about 38 years, almost 40 out of 62, or this is 61 years of Nigerian independence. So, and you just, in fact, from record, we have more of the Southerners rule to have performed more educationally to the North than the Northern presidency.
Of course.
So what is Yerima saying? I think we need people to start talking to this.
It's already a defeated argument.
So conclusively, Mr. Matthew, although maybe tomorrow, God's willing, on Friday we'll be looking at the other headline that talks about the PDP and the APC and so many other news. But what's your concluding thought about this?
My concluding thought is simple. One, that the government of Nigeria should save Nigerian entity the shame of making Nigeria look as a country that have no respect for rule of law. That enough is enough, because from what they are doing in Nigeria, disobeying court orders, that they should not take it to the global scene and make it look as if Nigeria do not have respect for rule of law. And that in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, that in as much as they have the leverage to prosecute him, they should not deny him of that consular assistance that is required by law from the British government, from the British High Commission in Nigeria. And that the diplomatic assistance he needed, the consent he needed, the British legal firm that needed his consent for diplomatic takeover of his case. That is a normal process in this kind of litigation. That does not mean the federal government will not have their say if eventually they needed to come and ventilate their opinion in the British court. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that the federal government should allow the law to take its course. They should stop circumventing the law. they should stop standing the way of justice. Thank you very much.
Okay, viewers at home and those in governance, please spare us the shame of, because I'm trying to imagine how you're going to come up with a Nigerian passport anywhere in the world and how they're going to look at you, because the sin that have characterized the so-called extradition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya is laughable within the Committee of Nations. And so many, even foreign analysts who are not Nigerians, have termed it as his second phase of Umar Diko kidnap. So, and it's shameful that if you look at the headlines, there's really nothing good to give people hope of a better nation in the future. It is worrisome that we're in this part of the world and we're having this to contend with. Whoever is in governance, let the transmission of election results go digital. We're not even saying we're voting electronically, just the result that will be voted manually. Let us try and copy some developed nation on some basic issues. Let us try as much as possible to address those who are agitating peacefully and do the needful by curbing the insecurity, the banditry. The Boko Haram should be the paramount target of this change mantra that has turned to the next level administration. Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu might have been guilty of the law, but within the circumstances that we are as a nation, Boko Haram and the banditry has committed worst crimes, and we expect more draconian steps with the intelligence of both the DSS, the police, the army, the air force, the military, the custom, to track down the sources of, to track down how these ammunition